to teach uncomfortable. What's up with that? And then we have the Supreme Court, who want race neutrality. Race neutrality is synonymous with anti-blackness. But this is a nation in which we live. And this is why we need ethnic studies. See, I don't believe that a member of the Supreme Court, with a possible exception of Ketanji, has taken an ethnic studies class.
Abdullah, I'm a professor of Pan-African Studies here in the Second College of Ethnic Studies in the nation. We're going to start our 50th anniversary conference for the Association for Ethnic Studies. Grateful to be here, grateful to be among you. And we want to start intentionally, as we should do all things. And we want to begin with our land acknowledgement, recognizing that this nation, this city, this university sits on stolen land and was built by the stolen labor and lives of African people, the stolen land of indigenous people, and the stolen labor and lives of African people. We want to thank Tina Calderon for being willing to offer our land acknowledgement. Thank you so much, Sister Tina.
Me ihane hinka, ne twanyane, Tino Arduino Calderon, ko mikrabet na ha tongwe, koi mixkanakan, ko yoeme, awesh paneha ko awamane te hovet tamet. Hello, my relatives. I'm Tino Arduino Calderon, Gabrielino Tongva, Ventureño Chumash, and Yoeme, and I'm happy to be here with all of you today.
Melina Abdullah. I'm a professor of Pan-African Studies here at Cal State LA in the College of Ethnic Studies that was birthed by student organizing, faculty organizing, community organizing as the second College of Ethnic Studies in the entire nation.
I don't know what Lena's last name is, but that's how you pronounce it. Benedict, something like that.
And it's really important now more than ever to have these deep conversations about anti-Black racism, xenophobia, homophobia, Jewish hate, Asian hate. And so we depend on your great thoughts to share with others on how we can get past this kind of system and this kind of society so we can get to a better place.
Just so you know, ethnic studies, CFA was at the forefront of making sure ethnic studies was a requirement here in the CSU, right? We helped to sort of write and to sort of put together AB 1460, which was finally put into play in 2020. And so that was really on behalf of Melina and other folks who organized to get that to pass and to get implemented.
We are very grateful for the ancestors who have created the opportunity for us to be here today to commemorate 50 years of the Association for Ethnic Studies. We are the oldest association for ethnic studies on the planet.
You who have your roots into Mother Earth right here in these territories to be good caretakers, to help us to be good to the waters, to the lands, to the minerals, to the plant and animal peoples. Remember that we are just part of it. And I'm going to go ahead and offer an ancestor song. Oh, 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 oh,
I think I'm also curious as to, you said you grew up in San Diego? I did. And so how did this urge to look into this specific piece of history start?
Condemning it as an act of racial terror akin to the lynching of African Americans in the South. Newspapers in Mexico picked up the story. Lynching is not practiced by the brown Yankee except upon beings for ethnic reasons he considers as inferiors.
Dr. Lawson Bush will open us with libation.
Can you hear me clear? Good. Whenever you enter a traditional West African, particularly a Khan home, they offer you what we call inside, drink, in acknowledgement of the long distance that you have traveled to quench your thirst. But we also pour the drink in front of you to acknowledge that you have not traveled this distance alone, that some invisible ancestors have made this journey with you. And so, on behalf of the College of Ethnic Studies, our Dean, Dr. Melina Abdullah, my fellow chairs in our department, we pour some drink in front of you first just to say, welcome. Then when I think about 50 years of ethnic studies, you didn't make that distance and we didn't make that distance alone, that some people have traveled with us to open up this space for us to be here today. And so in the moment, I'm going to pour libation to open up the veil, and then I'm going to ask you to participate, to ask you to call those ancestors by name, to bring them to this space, to have this drink, to be with here at this conference. Oh, I go.
There's indignation among Mexicans here over this lynching reported El País. By November 8, 1910, riots had erupted across Mexico. Targeting the considerable number of U.S.-owned businesses and homes, the protesters smashed windows and tore down American flags, chanting, "Mueren los Yankees," death to the Americans. The police arrested hundreds of people. In one case, officers drew sabers and descended upon a crowd, killing one man by stabbing him through the neck. The protests continued on the streets and in the press, prompting Henry Lane Wilson, the U.S. ambassador to Mexico, to issue a public warning. The United States government will, quote, leave nothing undone to protect U.S. citizens and property in Mexico. It was a threat. The United States would invade Mexico if attacks on U.S. interests did not cease. But the protests raged on. Ambassador Wilson decided to visit General Porfirio Diaz, the legendary dictator of Mexico, to insist that he put a stop to the so-called anti-American disturbances.
Stop. Because what could it mean? With Black folks, Indigenous folks, and others watching what's happening, organizing with people, what could it mean across borders? Tito Rivera, the brother's wife, also did the same. Maria also smuggled a letter out of the LA County Jail while Ricardo was being held in solitary confinement. There's no such thing. While he was being held in solitary confinement, he was speaking to people out the back windows, dropping notes into the alley, and smuggling correspondence out through Maria. She went to visit him one day in the visiting room, and he took a note, he dropped it, she pulled her purse open, slipped the note inside, and walked out. She then took that note and she delivered it to a PLM safe house in downtown LA to a man named Praxedis Guerrero. Praxedis Guerrero. My editor's convinced I'm in love, and I probably am. So, Praxedis Guerrero.
Tell it.
He was born into a wealthy family in Guanajuato. He grew up with private tutors, he wrote poetry, he rode horses and won equestrian competitions. As a young man, he renounced his family's wealth and he ran away from home. He went to work in a beer factory until his mama grabbed him and pulled him back. He ran away again and said, I'm going to the United States. My people are laborers, are migrants, are workers, and I'm going to walk and work with my people.
Generally, are known as the Magonistas. Well, they were ordinary people. Liberado Rivera was a school teacher in San Luis Potosí. He was a rather reserved man. He was a learned man. He liked to read a lot. He did math, he did history, he did sociology. He was often the quietest person in the room, right? We all don't have to be the one who grabs the mic to be a revolutionary. We all have work to do in our own way. Yeah. His friends nicknamed him El Fakir for his quiet, ascetic manner. And he was probably one of the most dogged, committed revolutionists of the era. Juana Belén Gutierrez de Mendoza. Can we all say her name together? Juana Belén Gutierrez de Mendoza was an extraordinary cross-dressing autodidact from the mountains of Durango who cut her teeth as an organizer, as a labor rights organizer who worked on behalf of people who were working in the mines, underpaid, overworked, and in extraordinary difficult conditions. For this, she was
This is our community box. This is going to be eventually a bigger basket, but just sit it there in the corner and people interact with it. Put things in there, take it out, and it's about, the curriculum there is, do you surveil people when they're putting something in, or do you check out when they're taking something? And then what does it mean when our box is overflowing onto the floor? And what does it mean when it's empty? Who's responsible to fill the box, right? So a way of taking out the language of socialism, communism, but really teaching about the common good through, this is our shared community resources box. People have put $20 bills in there. There's a basket at my exhibit, and I've seen silver earrings, beautiful earrings, naranjitas, poems, handwritten poems, little paintings, and so people start to get more confident with taking and leaving as the course goes. Done!
Well, so my first book was on the Border Patrol, and it's just grown from there. My last book was about mass incarceration in LA, and the Magonis is one chapter of that. So this is sort of taking that one chapter and doing a whole book on that. They're fascinating. They're extraordinary characters.
Yeah, and I think there's relevance too when we talk about like black and brown solidarity. Even like people don't know that there's Haitians stuck on like the southern border, so it's like these issues aren't just a brown issue; they continue to be like in their section.
Well, it was nice to meet you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
My name is Joyce Salas, and I'm an assistant professor of Asian American Studies in the Department of Asian and Asian American Studies.
Hi, I'm Julia Jordan Zachary, president of the Association for Ethnic Studies.
My name is Kelly Lytle Hernandez. I'm a professor of history and African American Studies at UCLA, where I also direct the Ralph J. Bunche Center for African American Studies.
Hi, I am Dr. William Zawadeha. I'm an assistant professor in the Rehabilitation Services Program. Here at the Ethnic Studies Conference, it's been really amazing.
I'm Selena, and I will be talking about why Filipino ethnic studies matters in ethnic studies education.
Magandang hapon. So while the history of the Philippines began long before their colonization, I think the tragedy began in 1521 when the Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan claimed the Philippines as a Spanish colony. Ferdinand. Prior to this, the Philippines was already a nation rich with culture and resources, and
I think ethnic studies has helped us in general, like understanding all these different communities, whether it's the Black community, the Hispanic community, and the Filipino community, that we're not all so different at all. We've all been oppressed. We have had our history of struggle, and we should collaborate and come together in that solidarity and keep fighting against racism and all that hate that keeps coming against us, and not just separating each other between the Black community, Hispanic community, Asian community. We should come together and be able to address these issues.